Welcome back. This is part 9 and our final tutorial in our online tutorial series. And in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at Designer's IO modules, the default web interface, and a really cool custom web interface that you can download from our website for free, load onto the controller so your user can access and use the controller from something like an iPhone, iPad, or PC. So to begin with, I just want to have a look at the IO module library. So IO modules are essentially a set of plugins that you can pull into Designer that's going to extend its features and functionality by adding triggers, actions, or conditions to Designer's triggers view. Each IO module will work in its own way, so it's important to read up on them. But essentially what you can do is you can go to the Scripts and Modules button at the top here, go to the Modules tab, and then you'll have a list of IO modules. And whenever you select an IO module, in the right hand corner, it'll give you some basic documentation to let you know how the IO module works, plus any further steps that you need to take in order to configure it. So first off, I'm going to look at a very basic IO module. This is the email notification module that will send you an email. This IO module only has an action, and obviously it assumes that your controller has an internet connection. I can bring this IO module into my library by simply selecting it and clicking New. And then I've got some basic properties that I'll need to fill out, such as the name and who it's from. So once I've done that, I can attach the action from this IO module to one of my triggers. I'm going to take the startup trigger. I'm going to add the action by going into the new menu down here, selecting the email notification action. Then I just simply need to fill out where the email needs to get sent to and a basic message. So I've decided to attach this to a startup action, so whenever my controller restarts, I'll get a notification. But of course, you can use these IO modules and their actions and triggers however you feel. So I'm just going to go ahead and look at another IO module that we've got in our library. Again, as I said before, they're all completely different from one another and do totally different things. I'm just going to have a look at the Accuweather module here though. This is essentially an IO module that goes out and gets the current conditions for an area. And again, like some of our IO modules, this requires an internet connection. So again, just like before, I'm going to select the IO module, I'm going to click New. This is then going to ask me to fill in some more properties. I should note this IO module uses something called an API key, so you need to go online, you need to register with a service in order to get that key. But assuming that I had that, I could just go ahead, fill out a location for where I want to get weather results from, and then finally select a unit that I want to work with. So this IO module has triggers and also actions. One of the actions is to request the current conditions. So I could do this from something like a real-time trigger, request the current conditions. And then what I can do is I can add in a new trigger, which will fire once the conditions have been returned. So receive current conditions. And then if the weather condition is equal to rainy, and I can go ahead and add an action to that to start a certain timeline. There are various different IO modules though. As I said before, lots of them have different features and purposes. Some of them are to integrate Pharos with other systems. Some of them, like the Accuweather module, will obviously integrate with an online service. And some of them are just inbuilt utility IO modules that will allow you to do some more advanced programming with your project. Just one thing that I want to show you in this tutorial whilst I'm here is that you can actually color code your triggers just to make them a little bit more organized. And of course, this is good for just making sure that the triggers appear really clear and concise, and so that you know which each trigger set does. Okay, that's it for the IO module library, but whilst I'm just finishing off on this, I should note that if you do have any ideas for IO modules, or if there's a system that you wish to integrate with, please do drop us a line at support@Pharos Controls, and we can then go ahead and assess that, and obviously if we feel that it's correct, we can then import that into our system. Okay, so now I want to show you the default web interface. The default web interface can be accessed by going to the network view, selecting controller, and clicking on web interface. This in turn will then bring up the web interface in your browser. And essentially this is a home page with lots of different bits of information in regards to what the controller's doing. So this is the home page, and from here we can see our type of controller, things such as our MAC address, the amount of memory we have free, the reason that it's last booted, the amount of time it's been up. But we can also see the project file, and if we need to, we can also download the project file from the controller. Finally, in the bottom right hand corner, you have all of the different astronomical time events, IP address just above that, and also the firmware version. We also have options for cloud, and if you're more interested in that, again, just make sure you drop us an email and we can kind of go through that with you. So just moving over, we have the project status. This will essentially tell us what timelines are running within the system, and it will also report back any scenes and the master intensity levels of any fixtures or groups of fixtures that we have within our project file. Over to the right, as we've seen in previous tutorials, we can access the log. This is really important for you guys. If you do ever run into any issues, what we're probably going to tell you to do first of all is send in your project file, but we may also tell you to send in your log file as well. You can send in your log file by clicking save. Just make sure that you're selecting the amount of lines that you want to actually save. So sometimes it might be best to say show all. That'll display all of the log. You can go ahead and then click save, and that'll then save a text file. Next to that, we have the output viewer. This will give us real-time feedback on what channels are doing within our controller's DMX universes. Over to the right, we have our input tab. And this is going to show us the states of all of the different inputs on our controllers or RIOs. Over to the right, we have our network view, and this is going to show us a list of devices that the controller thinks is online. And then we have the control tab, and this is going to allow us to fire any triggers for testing or any other purpose. Finally, we have the file manager. This is particularly useful when you get into more of the advanced programming. You can upload Lua files, which is going to allow you to run scripts. And over to the right, again, we have the configuration page. This is essentially a duplicate of what you've seen before in the first tutorial, where you can configure your controller to be on a different IP address, have a different time, or even set a password. Okay, so the final thing that I want to show you within this tutorial is loading on a custom web interface. So you can download our custom web interface for free from our website. So if I just go to pharoscontrols.com, and then if I go to the downloads menu, then I go to resources, custom web interface. Then I could pick from one of 4 themes. That'll then download. And I can now pull that into Designer by going to the project window, going to the web interface tab, going to where it says edit files under custom web interface, browsing to the location where I downloaded the files. Make sure you bring in the assets folder and also the index.html folder. And finally, to use this, you need to make sure that the command line parser is enabled. Once you've done that, you can go back to the network view, hit upload, upload that to the controller. And now if you navigate to the controller's IP address, you'll have this custom web interface appear. Now I should note this custom web interface is responsive. So if I was to view this on a phone, it would look something a little bit like this. And as you can see, that fits quite nicely with the screen space that you get for a standard mobile phone. This obviously allows you to control different timelines. But you can also access your scenes. You also have the ability to select a group and change its color and also its intensity. But you also have master intensity controls for each group of fixtures that you've made within the project file. Finally, there's a button just to turn everything all off. And this will obviously reset the intensity levels and also the timelines and scenes. So you could use this in conjunction with a Wi-Fi connection. You can load this onto a controller and save this as a bookmark or to the desktop of your PC. And of course, by doing so, you can obviously access this at a click of a button and give your user another way of accessing and controlling the system. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. As always, if you have any questions or feedback, please do email support@Pharos Controls. We'll obviously do the best that we can to take the feedback on for our training sessions and give you support in whichever way we can. Thanks very much, and I hope to see you soon.